the final thing we're going to talk about this week is our pinnacle of filmical. I think that's going to stick at this point.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
This week we are talking about, well, again, we're breaking down the top 100 movies of all time according to IMDb.com.
Yes.
They have a top 250. I was worried.
We're in the top 100.
We're just doing the top 100 because, who
Did
knows?
you guys freeze frame it like this is the top 100
Well, see,
as of
No,
2016?
because it's going to change.
It might change, so.
So what happens if
I'll
Monty
freeze.
Python
No,
bumps
no,
it?
we'll freeze frame it. We'll freeze
As of
frame
right
it.
now?
Yeah, as of right now.
What
as
movie
of this-
comes out next year that blows our minds?
Maybe, who knows? We'll probably talk about it, but
Just saying, it could bump one down on the list, so then you'd have to skip
Talk about
it
96
'cause
2
you're
weeks in a row.
96 Right.
the explanation of everything fits well with the movie we're about to talk about. Number 96 this week, we're talking about the 1975 comedy classic, the cult hit Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Now, we all have seen this movie, I would imagine, a number of times.
Multiple times.
Double digits.
But we all watched it again this week.
I saw it today. So
Me
this morning.
too.
Yep.
I watched the ending to this morning as well. So we're gonna talk about it.
Ending.
Quote unquote. Again, we'll do kind of a non-spoiler. I think it's kind of hard. Again, we'll get to it, but we'll talk what the movie's about. We'll give you our review: thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side. Then we'll talk what we liked about it, what we don't like about it, and then we'll talk about spoilers. So we'll try to avoid some spoilers, although it's a comedy, so it's kind of hard to talk about.
This is a comedic take on the hunt for the Holy Grail, King Arthur.
Yes.
That's really all we need.
Well, yeah. So this is Monty Python. Before this is kind of their first quote unquote movie. So before this, they had a movie called Monty Python and the Flying Circus was their group. It's like a improv
sketch comedy.
Yeah, sketch comedy improv group.
Broken Lizard kind of stuff.
Exactly. And so they had a movie called and Now for Something Completely Different. That's the name of it, which I love. They that movie was kind of like a bunch of like 40 different skits put into like a feature film. So it's kind of like a TV show skit thing. And this movie kind of feels like that. It is a bunch of quote unquote skits, but they all fit into a bigger narrative ongoing. But yes, it follows the King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table going on this quest
to the Round Table.
Yeah. So the movie is
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. But again, it's got all the guys from Monty Python. They ended up doing a lot of movies later on, Life of Brian, The Meaning of Life, and of course they did a lot of other stuff that was kind of TV related stuff. And this movie was then later turned into a musical called Spamalot. So people,
Wait, this movie was?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
off of-
I've never. I know of Spamalot, but I've never seen it or anything. I didn't know it was the Holy Grail.
But it was directed by a couple of the guys that are in the improv
Gilliam,
group,
I think, right?
Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones. And what's funny is Terry, they're both in the movie, by the way. But Terry Gilliam ended up doing like The Fisher King, 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So ended up like becoming like quote unquote a real director. You know what I mean? Like did other movies. Where are these other guys? John Cleese obviously had a big career after that
As an actor, yeah.
Yeah, and Eric Idle is another one that's in the movie, and he's the one that ended up penning Spamalot. So this again, it's a cult classic. If you have not, it's like Rocky Horror Show. You got to see this movie. Like everybody needs to watch this movie. But before, and so now let's talk about our review here. So everyone, thumbs up is a couple because this is weighted on a curve because it's the top 100 movies of all time. Thumbs up means this movie deserves to be here. It is absolutely one of the greatest movies of all time. Thumbs to the side is it's a good movie, but I don't know if it's where it should maybe not be in the top 100. And thumbs down is, as we call
What
it,
are they thinking? Yeah.
an accounting error. Someone messed up here.
Put an extra 0 or something.
Exactly. 1, 2, 3.
I mean, come on now.
How could you not? Right.
Okay. All of us gave it thumbs up. I actually, when I watch this again, because I've seen it a bunch of times and it's quotable and all that stuff, I actually think this movie should be higher on the list. This is probably one of my favorite comedy movies ever.
Same here. Most definitely.
I don't think it should be that much higher. Because I was watching it from like, does this hold up?
Yeah.
Like, because I watched it a lot when I was younger, and I mean, it was hysterical when I was younger, and you just quote every single line and this and that. And I was like, looking back, I was like, I wanted to watch it again for this because I was like, does it hold up? And it is funny, but it didn't hold up as much as I thought it was funny 15 years ago. I maybe because I know every joke.
I
that
think,
might be a big
Or you're
part
more
of it.
mature.
Yeah, you've grown up.
Maybe I'm boring. I don't know.
Well, see,
But,
the whole
some of
movie
it-
is about it's about it's that I forget the particular line, but it's if you make the joke once, it's funny. If you make it twice, it's no longer funny. But if you do it 3 times, it's absolutely hilarious. And that's what this whole movie is about: is like taking the absurdity to the 10th degree.
See, the skits are all funny. What I thought took away from the movie is the plot line. And I don't want to get into the spoiler section.
Well,
but
we'll get to that, but-
a movie has like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and some kind of structure, and I feel like there's this thing that they think is funny, and they think it's funny, and I don't think that part added to the movie. I actually think it took away from it, and I don't think that part's funny at all, and it kind of screws the movie up, in my opinion. I would take that whole section out.
Right. Some of the skits, because they are skits, feel forced. But one of the few bad things, like it's like, oh, we want to do this thing with this setting, with this character, because that would be funny, but it doesn't really fit into the. Again, the movie is it's. I mean, there's a narrative, but it's a lowercase n narrative. You know what I mean? Like it's not meant.
But that's
to,
that's almost part of the movie. Like the ending is like one of the most funniest parts of the whole movie.
Right.
Just kind of wraps up and stuff.
I just
how ridiculous.
You don't like the
I
ending?
don't think it's no. I don't like
like
the ending. I don't think
in
it's
between
funny.
the movie and it's like obviously the police. Like that's
it doesn't
hilarious.
make sense. It screws with the timeline.
I don't know. That's why it's
like,
funny.
I get that's why they thought it was funny. I don't think it. I think the funnier parts to me are like the conversations about sparrows, like the
African swallows,
the part where he's
swallows.
like, "I'm the king," and they're like, "I didn't vote for you," and like
Being repressed.
those are hilarious scenes to me. The witch and the duck like getting weighed, and then they get off of the scales like this, you know. Like there's the little subtle things that are super funny, but to me that overall plot line, I don't mind that it didn't have that much of a plot line. That it was skits stuck together, but had like this central theme. But then when it got to the point where there's like this, it's just this very specific plot line that just ends the movie, and it's stupid and it's not funny, and I think that was why it's at the bottom of the 100 list. Other than that, it's absolutely hilarious. It has things in it like the beginning, the credits, like just the opening credits,
right? And
it's
that's
silly, it's funny.
You know what's great about that is
It almost gives you a seizure, by the way.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, so they again, we talked about this with some of the older movies. It's weird to watch older movies, but probably before, like I'd say, like the early '90s. I think they stopped doing it. Is showing like a lot of credits before a movie. Like
they had to.
Right.
It was like
like
they
key
had
grips,
to.
like
All of them.
makeup artists. So what they take an opportunity where it could have, like, this feels like that movie, like, don't miss any opportunity to be funny. That's what this movie basically is. So like they're showing the credits and they have like translations, and actually when I was watching this, I do remember the llama thing with the fly, but for some reason I didn't pick up on the so I was like, oh, I gotta go into the settings to turn off the subtitles, and I was like, the subtitles aren't on, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
like,
you start reading them.
right, and you start reading them, and it sets the tone immediately, which so many comedies that are funny, like they've got to be like, here, we got to show you this character, and we can't be funny yet, we've got to be a movie, and this is like, no, we're like, it's just
we don't.
funny.
They almost don't care about the narrative.
It's so
just
silly. It's just so. It's the perfect. Like you talk about like Ren and Stimpy and that stuff. It's like just silly to be silly. Like, and we don't do
and
that
I
enough.
loved it. I loved that.
Yeah.
And it was actually funny when I was watching that part at the beginning of the credits. You know how all of a sudden they're like, we fired everybody and we started with new. It reminded me of Kevin Smith's thing where they're like, they have that cartoon, and then like 2/3 of the way through the cartoon, they're like, our animator died and we hired some Japanese people, and then the rest of the cartoon is just Japanimation, and it's all crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a ton of, obviously, a whole bunch of comedians and comedy movies ape a lot of the stuff that's in this. And a lot of the stuff, you might, if you even haven't seen this movie, you've probably heard of references to it.
It's totally quotable.
Absolutely. And I think that's because of the fact that they're skits. Like it's easy to, the movie is easily digestible because it's like this skit and this skit and this skit. So I think we talked about what we liked, what we didn't like. So like, let's get into the spoiler territory, because I really do want to talk about what you guys absolutely love, and why you love it specifically.
I want to know everyone's favorite so-called skit.
Okay, my favorite skit of all has got to be the rabbit. The evil rabbit that kills people.
That one's good.
The part
1, 2, 5.
well, the holy hand grenade of Antioch, like all of that's great, but I think the part that I love is when John Cleese is as Tim the Enchanter, which is fantastic. Like where he's like it's just like when
randomly,
and he's like, he just keeps causing fires and stuff like that. But then he's like, if you have any fear, you'll have to leave, and he's just spitting everywhere.
Right.
And he turns around, he's like, very eccentric performance. Like I absolutely love when this movie. It does that thing where it's like, okay, this is stupid, and then it just keeps going, and it's just like, this is really stupid, and then you're like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Like where he keeps like firing the things, and he's just, that's my favorite. And then the sharp birthday fangs, and then you go over there, and the rabbit just
head falls off.
Yeah, it's just,
Jesus Christ,
run away. I love all of that. And what's funny about this movie, that rabbit, I guess they found somebody who had a rabbit, like not a friend, but like somebody who trains rabbits. So they had this rabbit, and you can see that scene after all the blood and stuff. They put some dye on it.
Yeah.
Well, the story goes that they couldn't get the dye out of the rabbit, before the guy came back to pick up the rabbit, so they had to like give it back to him, and he couldn't get it out, and he was like really pissed off at them. And they're like, I guess in the commentary they're like, yeah, we should have bought our own rabbit. That was probably pretty stupid to use like a trained rabbit. But like it's hilarious to think that the guy had to go back home and like put the rabbit in like its little pen, and it's just like blood,
covered in blood.
It's like, Jesus Christ, man, what'd you do to your rabbit?
What was your favorite, Jordan?
That's my favorite for sure.
That's really tough. I like the beginning couple scenes.
You like the diplomat, or the, what is it called? I wrote it down on
aristocrat.
here. The constitutional peasants.
Yeah,
yes,
constitutional peasants. Yeah, I love that scene. It's hard to pick one. I don't know. Probably actually it's the Black Knight. That's
such a good scene.
That's such a memorable scene too. And just like, actually, okay, so when I first turned this on, I had the girls in the room, and I was like watching it with them, and they were watching it, and they can't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But then I got to that scene, and I was like, I turned their seat around. I was like, it is just all fake blood and stuff. And I was like, I don't need them watching. That's when I put on The Good Dinosaur, and then I finished it this morning because I was like, I don't know, because there's just blood spewing out of every orifice. But yeah, that's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, leading up to that scene is so great when he's talking to him and he won't respond, and he's like, "You make me sad."
You make me sad.
Now move aside, good sir.
Yeah, and again, it's such a good scene. Like, the fighting, and I guess that is John Cleese that's in that Black Knight, and they had to learn how to like sword fight and stuff like that. So I looked up a bunch of stuff about. First of all, the whole movie is like absolutely low budget, right?
But he like touches his arm and his arm falls off. And, like,
they make jokes about it with the banging the coconuts together. Like clearly they didn't have horses and stuff.
Well, they couldn't afford them.
Right. So he's like, you can banging the two coconuts together.
Where'd you get that? We found it.
It's not. That's an indigenous to here.
So
Sparrows
funny. We're in a temperate zone.
Are you suggesting coconuts are migratory? Yeah, that honestly, the first probably 20 minutes, just the different skits.
The dialogue
are my favorite parts.
Absolutely great. The dialogue and just the continuation of the joke and not letting it go, like literally just keep. And then they make small references to the jokes. They pay off later too, right? They do that callback, like when you first see Sir, I think it's Belvedere or whatever. She's not a witch. She's a witch. He's tying a coconut to a bird. If you see that, and like little things like that and that's the stuff when you see this movie over and over and over. There's little things I notice each time. And
I love the minstrel. I love.
Where he's singing.
See, Sir Robin runs away. Oh, Sir
no, I didn't.
Sir Robin.
Yeah,
that's the best. I don't know. There's so many parts, but yeah, the Black Knight. What about you, Joe?
My favorite scene is probably Lancelot, where he's like the singing son, all that kind of stuff, and he's like, first the guards, like, no, stay in here, make sure he doesn't leave. Okay. Go follow. Like, no, don't follow. So that's hilarious.
We don't go anywhere until you come into the room. We let him leave. No.
The nonchalant, like the son, like writing a piece of paper, and like,
yeah, he just shoots
hits the guy in the chest.
Message for you, sir.
But like you were saying, how like a joke, if you do it once, it's funny. Second, whatever. The third time, when he's running up,
yeah, and it keeps.
And the guards are like,
"Oh, he's far away."
And all of a sudden, stabs him. So like, just goes in there, stabbing all these people at a wedding, all that. Just hilarious.
And the way that he's like, I just get carried away. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just got
and he's like,
away.
I have to exit here a lot more dramatically, and he gives him the rope, and
he
he's
just
like,
swings back and forth. The other thing they do with that joke over and over is I'm not dead yet. Like they do that
absolutely.
like 10 times in the movie, but it's hilarious every time.
And then the Trojan Rabbit, of course, like the French scene, those scenes are hilarious. But like, no, okay, now we're gonna get out, and then we're gonna ambush them when they're sleeping and weaponless. It's like, wait, explain it to me again. No, me, him, and you. We're gonna get out of the rat. And they're like, oh.
So a couple funny things about this movie that are outside the movie, obviously, is the low budget part. So the entire thing were the coconuts that came out of necessity. They couldn't afford horses with their budget, so they got that idea from old radio shows back in the day. Would bang coconuts together to give the idea of, and it sounds like it sounds like horses. Like it's no joke that it literally sounds like, even when he's like he's getting nervous.
And when they dismount.
Yeah, it's great. And so that was a big necessity. Obviously, they originally wanted to do two different part of it took place in 1932 and part of it took place in modern day. And it was about putting King Arthur in modern day. Now they twisted that and basically had them in quote unquote modern day, but they were thinking they were in 1932. It's not really explained. It's not necessary. But the idea was to have like, not time travel, but like fish out of water, right? And that's kind of what happened, but to specifically have him like show up at like a modern place, not just the cop scene at the very end. That was the original idea, but I think they thought this was a better idea to just keep it all like keep him
in medieval.
Reminds me of when you go to like a medieval festival and everyone's in character and they do not break character. That's what that reminds me of, and that's why it's so fantastic. the end credit scene was done because they essentially kind of ran out of money. So that was the idea that they came up with at the end, where the cops just show up and stop everybody.
Yeah, that's so stupid. So stupid.
But it's funny, like, because they have like the historian on, and you're like, oh, that's kind of like they're like interjecting, history,
Breaking
into
the
this
fourth
movie.
wall, yeah.
And obviously he gets his head cut off, and now it's a murder investigation. You know what I mean?
I love the wife.
That's why
him,
it's
that's
so
him.
funny.
And
it wasn't him though.
Right, that's the thing. I was like,
So-
actually, who killed him? I didn't see who killed him.
I looked and it was like
There's
he's
been
got
an
the helmet and
injustice.
like a green suit. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't him. I don't know. I didn't mind it. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it takes away. To me, the movie it's
just so
funnier.
ridiculous.
It just stops.
It's funnier that he shows up at the castle that they were like originally at, and he was like, we're on the search for the girl." He's like, "Oh, he's already got one," and then they like go through this whole quest to get back to that same castle where the guy already
That's a
had
different
one.
castle.
It's a different castle, technically.
Oh, is it?
They were just there.
They were just the French got there.
Same. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It
He already has
I
that
just figured it
Grail,
was, like,
and he
the
won't
other
let you
side.
in. Yeah. But speaking of castles, so this entire movie, all the interiors of castles is one castle that they had. There's a couple castles that they used, specifically that castle at the end, which is like in this like little island. And then the castle is mostly filmed in Scotland. But
that one part where it's like, it's just a model.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
that's great. He's like, oh, it's so impressive. He's like, it's just a model, because most of it was models. That's why I love those movies. But the ending, all of those people where he like calls all of
the
his army, that was a bunch of students, and a bunch of people that are in the castles
read about that, yeah.
are people that were visiting the castle as like a tourist, and they're like, would you like to be in a movie? And they're like, sure. And they're like, here's all this medieval
Armor.
Dance on this table, yeah.
yeah. So like that's all. That's all.
cool.
That's why necessity makes this movie so funny, right?
Like Camelot's a silly place anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not go there. Also, when this movie premiered is it called Cannes Festival? Is that the big movie festival? Apparently, someone called in a bomb threat like while it was premiering, and so a bunch of people had to leave. But a lot of people thought it was part of the show because they knew Monty Python, which is like terrible,
biggest fear
right?
ever.
That's like the biggest fear. It's like
Seriously.
somebody's making a joke, and it was
That's why I don't like haunted houses. 'Cause I'm like,
Well,
I'm
like,
going to
back
get murdered and everyone's going to think it's part of the show. I don't want to be here. I'm not afraid of like the things jumping out. It's just that concept.
Right. And so like, and what's great about this is you clearly see that these guys all work together. They all wrote it. They all co-wrote the
See the
movie.
chemistry and stuff.
Like it's clearly, and like they're everybody. Like it's the same like
Right.
20 guys playing all these different
Not
characters.
even 20,
like 8.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
exactly.
7 or 8 guys.
And it's just I absolutely adore this movie. It's still funny. I still laugh. I know the joke's coming, and I still laugh because it's just absolutely great. I can't recommend this enough. You got to see it just for the fact. Like my wife saw this and she's like, "It's not my type of comedy, but I know why it's funny. Like I appreciate, even if it's not my cup of tea, I know that that's funny to a lot of people."
Right. The other thing is like I was thinking of it since it is kind of like a sketch comedy movie. Like I'm sure they had these sketches before they put them together. I'm like, when you compare it to like the Saturday Night Live movies that come out after a sketch, oh gee, I mean it's just 1,000 times better
Right.
than anything that's come out in
Well,
the last 20 years.
A lot of the skits that they had, like the Black Knight, was a story from I think it's John Cleese wanted to put that in because he had this story that he remembers as a kid where it was like a wrestler who like taps out at the very end, but then he realizes that the other wrestler was dead, and it's this whole idea that you can't lose if you never give up.
Wow.
Right? And so
Deep.
that was the whole story behind that.
Just a flesh wound. I can't tell you how many times that was said to me as a kid by my dad. Oh, you're fine. Just a flesh wound.
Yeah, call it a draw. It's like so many great, and that's the thing is it's immediately funny.
What
like,
are you gonna do? Bleed on me? Yeah, it's very quotable.
So again, I absolutely love this movie. You gotta go see it if you haven't seen. If you've seen it, go watch it again. It's still funny, man. And during like a lot of their promoting of this movie, the people were asking, "Oh, what's going to be your next movie?" And they were like talking about, "Oh, we're going to make a movie about Jesus Christ and how he was such a big star or something like that." And they ended up making The Life of Brian, which is about a guy that was born next to Jesus in a manger on the same day, and
which is fantastic, by the way. Definitely
I've
go
never
see
seen that one.
Oh, it's so good.
It's on
What
the,
number
It's on the
is it?
list, I think.
it's not on the list.
Oh, it's not. See,
Number 101.
No, I was
See?
looking to see. I'm
Missing
trying to
out.
find like other comedies, and other than like Back to the Future, which I guess is a comedy, but it's more an adventure movie.
yeah, adventure.
But like a comedy like this, like I think this is more pun, like Airplane, those kind of comedies.
yeah.
This is the only one on the list.
yeah, and again, I think
And
because
it's the only one that should be. I don't think
maybe
that
that's why
a
I
lot
think
of
it
those
should be
aren't
higher.
funny.
Maybe that's because this is the best comedy. It's definitely like top 5 of all time for me because I can just watch it over and over and over again. And there's always
I
something
can
new.
watch the first like 45 minutes over and over again. I think it falls off And I don't know. I won that whole.
You don't like the
story
Bridge
thing.
of Doom?
The Bridge of Doom's
That's at the very
hilarious.
end.
No blue.
No, I know that is hilarious part, but I don't really care for the rabbit scene that much. I don't really.
I
care
love
for
the rabbit scene.
I don't really care.
And
for
how the
cave
one,
scene.
how the 1, 2, I mean 5, and then that plays
I love
off
the
later.
cutting
like,
into cartoons. I
the
love that.
animator
Yeah,
thing,
the
went, and then
animator
the animator died. It's okay.
It's
but
so stupid.
I don't. It is stupid, but sometimes I like.
There was much rejoicing.
I care too much about the
Yeah.
story. Is probably the problem.
Yeah.
and like you're just like at that point, like the story's just falling to pieces.
Of course.
it isn't mattering at all. And like at the beginning, it was a building of a story, and there were like characters getting introduced, and it was funny, and
maybe-
they kind of went their ways, and I don't know.
They
and then
suffer
at the
from the
end,
thing we talk about.
It was just kind of like, okay, they went through a couple years, and then just our story doesn't matter anymore. Here's some stupid stuff.
They didn't save their best joke for their last joke, right?
they didn't.
That's the trick, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's a problem of a lot of stuff, right? It's
Yeah,
hard,
definitely.
and
But
it starts off with like
it's
some
a
of
bang,
the, like
It's
amazing,
so awesome for
and-
the first like 45 minutes.
right? And I think that's what's interesting about this whole movie is it's weird. It meets expectations because you're like, oh, it's super silly, and then it goes farther, and then it like keeps going, and then it's just like, okay, I'm done. Like it, and that's why I love it.
And maybe it is good that it just ends in because they're not really ever go. There's nowhere to go. They kind of just
They were going to make a Monty Python and the Holy Grail too. It's over.
Yeah. I'm just saying it falls off a little bit for me.
Okay, what's the next one that's on the list, by the way, so we can let people know to watch this week? Number 95.
95 is the 1921
Whoa.
comedy drama The Kid, starring Charlie Chaplin. as
Oh,
the
so a
director.
Charlie Chaplin film. I have not seen this
I just
movie.
watched the Bruce Willis one from like 1999.
Is that called
or
The Kid?
something. Isn't that The Kid?
No, I think that one's called.
Where he like sees
what was that?
himself as like a younger version of himself. Or
No,
something,
I don't
a little
know.
Fat kid.
That's called Big. Are you?
No, that's Tom Hanks. No, there was.
No,
a
but this is a
kid.
drama. I thought.
It's 1 hour and 8 minutes.
Oh, there you go. It's one of the-
Non-rated. Ooh, boobies. Probably not. It's just the tramp cares for an abandoned child, but events put that relationship in jeopardy.
Uh-oh.
Here you go. Disney's The Kid, 2000.
Okay,
See?
not that
Bruce
one.
Willis. That's what I'm watching.
Bruce-
You guys could judge your own movie. I'm watching that.
like, where does Bruce
It's in
Willis show?
color and it talks about time travel. I'm there.
It's Bruce Willis.
Again,
Bruce Willie, my boy, Bruce Willie.
the cool thing about doing these top 100s, I would never watch that movie. A 1921 Charlie
I
Chaplin
think
movie.
Sarah's
that's-
seen it because she's seen a lot of Charlie Chaplin movies because it's just her bag. But I
Wait,
haven't.
does that
seen
mean
this,
there's no
so-
talking?
It might be.
It
It
may
might
be
be a silent
movie.
picture.
1921, maybe.
Got those moving pictures.
It's like closed caption.
I won't be
dude.
making next week's podcast.
Yeah, apparently
unless I
not.
beat Gerald in fantasy football, and then I'll be here
Yeah,
to
you
rub
wish.
it in, just like I beat David last week. And I'm here to rub it in.
There you go. That's what it's all about. Again, if you are watching along, let us know what you thought about Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm always interested to hear what.
Tell us your favorite quotes.
Yeah, their favorite parts and all that good stuff.
Fart in your general direction, all that good stuff. Knights say knee.
Yeah.
Formally say knee.
Yeah.
Icky icky jabanga wanga.
It's a nice shrubbery. Anyways. First of all, that sound that they say when they like, you have to cut down the biggest tree with a herring.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense.
I love it.
Oh, and the shrubbery, like the guy who's like, "Are you guys kneading at that old woman? You ruffians!"
Oh no! Don't say it again. I am a purveyor in shrubbery. Like how convenient. Yeah, it's great. But let us know. You can send us your email to
Sitdownstandard@gmail.com.
what's the email address, Jordan?
Sitdownstandard@facebook.com.
That I think if you actually do that, that might actually show up
Does
to
that
us.
work?
Might
Maybe.
I don't know.
I was
You know,
trying to
just
pick
send
one
to the
that
Gmail
doesn't
just
work.
in case.
Hotmail.
CC the Facebook one and just see where it goes.
And again, if you do email us and we pick you as the best email of the week, you will get a $5 gift card to Amazon, Steam, or Starbucks.
Starbucks, yes.
So there's one of those three that you like. Or I think you can go on Amazon and buy gift cards with your gift card to those other two places.
There you go.
So you can just go crazy.
And then whatever you buy, you can return and see what kind of gift cards you can get with that gift card money. And then you can go anywhere
What's
you
that?
want.
What's
But
that?
we're not involved in that. That sounds like some shady practices right there.
Anyways, till next time. Bye.
See ya.
Later.